I'm going to start this video off with a hot take. I am of the opinion that there are very few TV shows out there that I would say have near perfect seasons of television. It's an incredibly difficult thing to do. For each episode to be memorable and entertaining as well as form a cohesive and effective story is a very tall order. And yeah, there's the obvious ones, but there's one show out there that I think has already earned the right to be mentioned when talking about the greats. And that show? Severance. Releasing in 2022 on Apple TV, Season 1 of Severance is just about as close to a perfect season as you can get. Now, don't get me wrong, this show is popular. It put up some pretty good numbers when it came out, even earning itself some Emmy nominations and a couple of wins, but I feel like this show has never truly gotten the recognition it deserves because it is a masterpiece, and I do not say that word lightly. And with the marketing ramping up for Season 2, I thought this would be a perfect time to share my thoughts about the first one. Severance follows Mark, played by Adam Scott, an employee working at a company called Lumen. Lumen invented a medical procedure known as severance, in which a chip is put into your head that affects your memories. When you're at work, you have no memories of the outside world, your life, who you are, your family members, nothing. On the flip side, when you leave work, you have no memories of the day you had, or anything to do with your job for that matter. Essentially, you become two separate people, known as an innie and an outie. Mark works in the macro data refinement department with three other people, Irving, played by the great John Turturro, Dylan, played by Zach Cherry, and Helly, played by Britt Lower. Throughout the show, outie Mark begins to learn about the strange and dark things that happen at Lumen when one of his old co-workers mysteriously shows up, claiming that there's more to Lumen than meets the eye. The script is perfect. It's smart, it's dark, it's emotional, it's even very funny at times. It packs a lot of plot twists into these 9 episodes while still maintaining a good pace, and the concept alone is just executed so well. The creator of the show, Dan Erickson, was inspired by a bad office job he had and said how he wanted to showcase the humanity and sadness of wanting to forget about your life for 8 hours a day. You can just feel his passion for this concept in every scene of the show. Pair this with the excellent directing from... Wait, who? Let me tell you, it was quite the surprise the first time I saw this guy's name pop up as the credits rolled. But Ben Stiller really takes this show to another level. He creates these sparse and bleak environments that absolutely nail the right tone for the show. He does these shots that remind me of Mr. Robot, where it's framed so the subject isn't at the center of the screen. It really helps to create a sense of separation. Conversely, some shots are framed to feel claustrophobic and tight, usually when a character is feeling a similar way. I particularly like the scenes whenever someone is just walking through the halls. They use a lot of long takes and camera tricks to create an engaging sequence every time. I would watch a whole 45-minute episode of just walking. That's how much personality these scenes are shot with. I also love the way they show the switch between innie and outie. It's just a simple little change in the camera lens size, and that's all it takes. We get it. I think the main reason the show works so well for me is because of its insane levels of weirdness. Like, I'm serious, this show is wacky as all hell. And while that may turn some people off to it, it just scratches a very particular itch for me. I love it when a show or movie is not afraid to go nuts and show me something that I've never seen before. And even though it is weird, it still manages to feel grounded in reality. It's able to strike that perfect balance. And I'd be a fool not to mention that all of this is capped off by the absolute banger of a score by composer Theodore Shapiro, who's worked with Stiller on other projects before. It's surprisingly simple, where the main focus of most tracks is just one little piano riff. But this melody is so catchy and mysterious that it elevates the show every time. The licensed music is pretty good too. It's just how I like it. Only there when there is a specific song in mind for the scene, and it makes some of the show's best moments all the more memorable. To talk about the rest of the show, I'm gonna have to go into some spoilers. I'm not gonna be giving away any major plot twists, but there's a few things I want to talk about that you should definitely experience for yourself first. So seriously, if you haven't seen this show, go watch it. I can't recommend it enough. If you don't, that's okay too, but I'm gonna have to put you in the break room until you're convinced to watch it.
I'm afraid you don't mean it.
Before I start singing the praises of this near perfect season, I gotta talk about a few of my very minor nitpicks. This part will be short, I promise. Like I said, this show is almost entirely flawless. I'd say the biggest gripe for me is the opening scene. The first scene with Helly on the table and the scene that follows it later in the episode is strangely not that good and maybe a little awkward, and not in the intentional way that is present throughout the rest of the show. I just think it's cut a little weird and there's some strange moments in it. Like, I would not be surprised if this is one of the first scenes they shot in the season, because it very much feels like they were still trying to find their footing here.
Wait.
Let me the fuck out of here!
Yeah, maybe they should have used a different take than that one. It's strange because all the performances, including Britt Lower, are all insanely good. I just think this is not her best stuff in this one scene. Later on, Helly is knocked on her feet by the overwhelming force of a locked door.
Hey! Let me out!
Like, what caused you to fall over there? You were not pulling that hard. But these are just minor things. This scene still does a great job at hooking you in and getting you fully bought in on the concept of Severance. In this shot is raw as hell.
Oh, God, it's so good.
I guess my only other real complaint is that the romance between Mark and Helly comes completely out of nowhere. Yeah, it's very mildly hinted at in like one other scene, but there's really no warning until she kisses him out of nowhere, and it kinda just left me like... Huh? Like, she seriously went from...
I could not, with a razor to my throat, be less interested in being your family.
to... in like 5 episodes. I don't know, for a show that developed their other romance incredibly well in so little time, it felt like they could have done a little more to make this relationship more believable. But those are really my only 2 complaints, and I only noticed them after a couple of rewatches, so now it's time for the good stuff, which is basically the entire rest of the show. Let's talk about the characters, one of the strongest aspects of the series. Because of the idea of an innie and an outie, we essentially get 2 characters for the price of 1 for each person. And this mostly only applies to Mark in the first season, but I'm so excited to see what they do with the other 3 main characters' outies. Without saying too much, there is one particular character where there is actual conflict between their innie and their outie, and the final episode set up so many possible ways for this to play out that I could not be more intrigued about where it's going. But like I said, Mark's 2 halves are very different from each other. On the outside, Mark is grieving his wife, Gemma, who passed away in a car accident. There's one scene where he's looking at a picture of his wife, thinking about all the little things he loved about her in a voiceover, and this depiction of grief is just so visceral. I love that he doesn't cry in this scene, but his face says it all. You can just feel the emptiness inside this character. This is way more realistic. Plus, when he does cry, it's not that convincing. Yikes. But jokes aside, Adam Scott truly is a highlight of this show. He's able to make his innie and his outie feel like 2 sides of one coin rather than 2 different people, which is an incredible feat to do. I also think he has great chemistry with his sister, Devon, played by Jen Tulloch. I actually think her performance in general is not talked about enough. I really hope she gets more to do in the 2nd season. You can tell she truly cares about Mark, and these 2 really do feel like a brother and sister. Their dialogue is great. On the flip side, Adam Scott portrays innie Mark as very innocent, very boyish, and his dialogue reflects this. I believe this is fully intentional on the writer's part. The way they interact and rationalize things is not congruent with their supposed age and maturity level. These innies are ostensibly only a few years old at best, so it would make sense that they would act like children. But it's all shown in very subtle ways. Like, look at the way Bert and Irving interact, for example. They're like 2 awkward teenagers.
I'm sorry. Wait. What time is it? I have to go.
Now we get to Helly, who is probably my 2nd favorite character in the show. She makes for a great audience surrogate, not only because you learn about all the weird ways the world of Lumen works, but also because she channels the way the viewer feels about everything. She's the only one who initially questions the mysterious nature of the job they do, or rebels against the ways they're tortured or imprisoned, which is what you as the viewer are rooting for the whole time. I like how the other 3 main characters' motivations to rebel against their job are naturally built up, but it's also nice to have a character who's like that from the beginning. You really feel for her as a person because she was essentially created against her will, forced to live a life of doing a job she doesn't want to do, and it's honestly one of the darker sides of the show because of the things she's pushed to do because of it. This line in particular gives me chills every time.
I am a person. You are not.
And it goes without saying that Britt Lower gives such an energetic and intense performance as Helly. I criticized her acting in the first scene, but outside of that, she brings a lot of much needed energy to the main cast. She's got great chemistry with her other stars, and you really can see these characters grow to like each other in a believable way, except for that very forced romance between these two that I've already talked about. I would also say that, for reasons I won't get into due to spoilers, she is the character who I'm most excited to see about where she goes next out of any of them. She has some very shocking and unexpected moments, and I'm dying to see where they go next. The wait for season 2 has been so brutal. That brings us to our final two main characters, Dylan and Irving, who are so great together. A lot of the humor of the show comes strictly from their interactions with other characters. The guy from Succession.
What's your story, Hunky Dory?
Me? I'm an enigma. You can't pigeonhole me. I'm there and then I'm gone. I'm intellectually promiscuous but culturally conservative. I work hard, but I do not play hard. I play easy. Why would you play hard?
Good question. And what is it you're doing right now?
I'm lurking like a dormant virus, biding my time in the Fort Myers resort, but I'm being stymied by a variety of enemies who are envious of my talents.
Obviously.
AKA Zach Cherry, brings some great delivery to his lines while also getting his own dramatic moments later in the season. I particularly like the way his motivations for eventually rebelling against Lumen are set up. I'm not going to say what it is, but it's very simple, yet so compelling. Irving, on the other hand, is another personal favorite of mine. He showcases the more cult-like side to Lumen and how he almost worships the company he works for. He constantly quotes the employee handbook like it's some sort of scripture, and I think it's really interesting how he has an almost childlike reverence for Kier. This makes for a very thought-provoking religious allegory. You feel for him because you can tell he finds purpose in these beliefs, only to have them broken later on in the season. And the way he's pushed to finally take a stand against the company that he once revered is so heartbreaking. His relationship with Bert is one of the most emotionally compelling things about the show, in my opinion, and that is not something that I usually say. Most times, I am very much a naysayer of romantic subplots in a story where it's not the main focus. I just personally feel like they usually have at least one of these three problems. They're almost never developed well, there's not a lot of chemistry between the characters, and it usually never affects the story in any meaningful way. With that being said, I am very pleased to say that this relationship in particular has none of these issues. Their reasons for liking each other are shown in very natural and subtle ways. They constantly bond over their love of art, which makes perfect sense given that Irving's Audi is a painter. They share a love for the more ideological side of Lumen, which works well for when Irving renounces them. And it goes without saying that these two actors have insanely good chemistry. Walken and Totoro have been friends for a long time, which helps to make it more believable. This relationship plays a vital role in Irving's arc throughout the season. Without saying too much, the way his love for Bert trumps all other beliefs he holds is extremely compelling to watch, and his sudden shift in motivation is capped off with this great line that's delivered perfectly by Totoro.
Let's burn this place to the ground.
It's just such a cathartic moment, and one of my favorites across the entire series. The few side characters, both at Lumen and in the outside world, make perfect additions to the already amazing core ensemble. I already mentioned how I think Devon is a great and well-acted character, and the same goes for her husband, Rickon, played by Michael Sherniss. And this guy is hilarious. He brings a lot of the non-Lumen funny moments. He's just a goofy character, and I think that's so fun. The self-help book he writes is utter nonsense in the real world, but when it makes its way into Lumen, it makes perfect sense to the people who read it. I like how he's obviously so full of himself, but you can still tell that he cares about Devon and his daughter. Oh, also, just a little side note, I read a lot of theories on Reddit, and the ones that are the most funny to me are the ones that are like, oh, Rickon is secretly severed the whole time, or, oh, Rickon is secretly working for Lumen. And it's just like, no. I also love his wacky little group of friends. I hope we get to see more of them in Season 2. Miss Cobell is a good addition to the series, too. I don't really have too much to say about her. She's just another solid character. I think it's interesting that she has ulterior motives that haven't been revealed yet, and that she doesn't exactly align with what Lumen's goals are. She's got some funny moments, but nobody in this show will ever top the best character in the whole show and my personal favorite, Mr. Milchick. played by the incredibly talented Tremel Tillman. I am not exaggerating when I say that this is one of the funniest TV characters that I have ever watched. He is goofy, he's weird, he's sinister, and he has some of the strangest word choices I've ever seen.
Helly, welcome. I'm agog at how well I can tell you're already fitting in. A man whose mind is as sharp as his incisors. It's going fair.
Wait, we've locked in now?
I prefer the phrase safely situated. These doors help us to ensure you all are tucked nicely in your workspaces.
For me, he embodies everything I love about this show. One of my main hopes for Season 2 is to get some depth added to the character. I'm really curious about his background, and I think there's a lot of potential there. I've rewatched this series about 5 or 6 times, and he still gets a chuckle out of me. The music dance experience scene that has been memed to hell is one of the best in the entire show. I mean, look at this guy dance. I'm sorry. I don't need to explain this any further. This character is so unhinged, and I love it. Truly an unforgettable performance. I want to take a deeper dive into the undebated best episode of the show as of right now. This is the episode that took this show from an 8 to an unequivocal 10 out of 10 for me. I am, of course, talking about episode 9, the season finale, The We Are. Now, it's going to be very hard to talk about this without spoilers, but I'm gonna do my best, I promise. I'm barely even gonna be showing any footage from it. It's tough because this whole episode is essentially one giant spoiler, both in a meta sense and in the literal sense. But I can't help but talk about this marvel of filmmaking. People like to bandy around the term masterclass a lot, but it could not be more appropriate to describe this episode. Even if the show drops in quality, even if they never are able to top the highs of this episode, it won't matter, because The We Are is forever cemented as one of the best episodes of television ever made. So, right off the bat, let me just say that the plot description on Apple TV for this episode is so funny. The team discovers troubling revelations. When you see an episode summary as vague as this, that's how you know you're in for a banger. Like, look at the plot description for Ozymandias, the critically agreed upon greatest episode of TV ever. As the series draws to a close, everyone copes with radically changed circumstances. Like, yeah, of course there'll be radically changed circumstances. It's the final episodes. But anyway. Throughout the episode's breakneck 40-minute runtime, we're constantly switching between the perspectives of 4 of our main characters. Each point of view is intercut with that signature Severance glitching sound effect from the main title. I think this is such a stroke of genius, and according to Ben Stiller, it wasn't even something that occurred to them until editing the episode.
And we started to play with this idea of these Fritz cuts.
What there basically is just like random intervals of like 1 and 2 frame edits that go back and forth between the outgoing scene and the incoming scene.
It was something that just tied in for us in a way that we thought, okay, we can go between the consciousness of the 3 characters, even though they're not connected. We should connect them as, you know, for an audience.
It's actually not a sound effect. It's a piece of the score. Like even in the title sequence, that like final image of Mark, Innie and Outie Mark on the bed, it's like that.
The episode also takes the use of long takes that the show is known for and turns it up to 11. There's even this one shot where one character is driving a car when another character passes them going the other way, with the shot continuing uninterrupted the whole time. Apparently, Stiller wanted to do the whole episode in one take, but the little amount of cuts in this episode is still very impressive. Also, just a little side note, I think the way Adam Scott says this line is so unintentionally funny. It's not a critique or anything, I just think it sounds goofy. He's just like, Ibn. Story-wise, it could not be more satisfying. Everyone gets their moment. Nearly every single character gets to shine in a way that is both memorable and impactful. I think it strikes the perfect balance between not resolving and answering too much, but giving plenty of payoff to make it worth it. I've seen people complain about the cliffhanger at the end and how not enough was answered, but I'm sorry. If you watch that episode and think that it's unsatisfying, then I don't know what to tell you. I like that so much of the mystery still remains unrevealed. The writers leave you these little breadcrumbs that give people just enough to have all these wild theories that are so fun to read. It's also perfectly paced. To say this episode is intense is putting it mildly. I was glued to the screen the whole time. I've heard people say that this show is a slow burn for the most part, and after rewatching it multiple times, I kinda can't argue with that. But I think I was so engaged in the mystery initially that I didn't even really notice when things were slow at first. And for people who generally don't like slower shows, this finale more than makes up for it. Every little twist and motivation that had been set up in the previous 8 episodes all pays off in a way that is both satisfying and leaves you wanting more. The intensity ramps up throughout as each character's respective story comes to an absolute breakneck conclusion, leaving off with what one person in a comment described as the most aggressive cliffhanger ever, and I think that could not be more accurate. And all of this is accompanied by the amazing score. It plays non-stop throughout the entire runtime, slowly increasing in volume, getting more and more feverish and crescendoing at the very end, which heightens the tension and keeps you engaged. It's just so cool. This whole show is cool. I'm serious. You have to watch it. I can't keep coming up with things to talk about when it's just perfect in every way. You just gotta watch it. As for the future of the show, things are looking pretty good. Its popularity doesn't really put it in any danger of cancellation, and I think Apple TV is good about letting their showrunners do whatever they want and allowing them to get their full vision on screen. Pair that with Apple's literal money printer of a budget for these shows, and Severance has a really good outlook. Plus, in a Reddit Q&A, Dan Erickson said that he already has the whole story planned out in his head, but that it's flexible and that he could do it in 3 to 6 seasons. He also said that he has most of the mysteries figured out, but still wants to leave some unanswered in his head so that the show can develop organically. These are all really promising things to hear in an era of never-ending milking of popular franchises and dead-end stories. I'm looking at you. But for now, all we can do is just sit back and wait for season 2. And the wait has been absolutely painful. I swear I've never been more starved for content from a show. I watched this back in 2022 when it first came out, and that cliffhanger has been burned into my brain. I'm dying. I'm dying over here. I need answers. I need to know what happens. I can only take so many delays. There's only so many fan theories you can read, and I can only take so many posts about what those damn goats mean. 2 years may not sound like a lot, but it's felt like an eternity, and we're so close. We're literally so close, man. They showed like 15 seconds of footage and then released a 30-second trailer, but that's not enough. I need more. I'm tired of getting a taste of it. I want the full load. And I'll get it in January, I know, but I'm tired of waiting. I want it. I want it now. I need it. I need it! 10 out of 10. Perfect show.